It's very critical to know your status. Our studies have shown you can live a normal life, completely normal life, when it is detected very early.
We've all heard that line before, right? But let's be honest, when it comes to HIV, how many of us actually want to check our status?
I don't fear checking mine, for instance, but I understand those who still link testing with the scary campaigns that they grew up watching. Is that even realistic anymore?
It is realistic. It can't be done. We need leadership, political will, financing.
Financing, that's the word. And it dominated the International AIDS Conference that just wrapped in Rio de Janeiro.
The reality check in Rio was devastating. Leaders scrambled for alternatives as America's flagship health program, a lifeline for millions, pulled back.
The disruption of PEPFAR has already shut down over 1,700 clinics across East and Southern Africa.
That's a lot, and the fallout is staggering. The PrEP initiations dropped 64%, that's the number, and condom distribution fell by half. The million-dollar question is, can Africa end AIDS without Western aid?
Donor funds or external funding to such a critical and pandemic like HIV and AIDS, you need to be self-reliant.
And some are proving it is possible. Namibia, Botswana, Rwanda, Lesotho, and Zimbabwe are defying the odds and hitting the 95 targets.
I like that. But West and Central Africa tell a different story. Weak supply chains, harsh laws pushing vulnerable groups into hiding, and stalled national targets. The International AIDS Society's latest data shows a deep regional divide.
And that's why we are asking, can African nations end HIV as a public health threat by 2030, or is that dream slipping away?
That's our conversation today, right here under the Baobab. Hello, George.
Hello, Mimi. Don't get choked.
How's your drink tasting today?
Today is something I will call King Keliba.
King Keleba.
Yeah.
I think that's something like the traditional...
Sounds familiar, right?
Yes. People always believe that it could cure HIV. That was not verified at all. We have a lot of people claiming that across Africa, by the way.
Yeah, and I know such claims could be relative to other countries as well, like in Uganda.
But dangerous.
They were dangerous. In Uganda, people kept believing even taking your own urine could cure you from HIV AIDS, and people used to do that. But thanks to public awareness, more people are testing. Those who test positive start treatment immediately. And recent data from the International AIDS Society shows that Uganda's viral suppression rate now at 90%. They are just 5% short of the global target,
which is really good
among those who are getting the treatment.
Yeah, extraordinary progress there. But before we dive into today's discussion, I see you're already very excited about this, and I have a lot of questions for you. Let's hear from members, from members of our community out there, what they always think about the topic that we did prior to this one. And we're looking at Zambia's elections.
Yes.
It's already... A lot is already happening.
A lot is happening, Mimi, and the election has just happened, and a lot people are still reacting to it.
Right.
And as a tradition, we go to the comments that we got from our fans and the community members.
You have to make sure you read exactly what they wrote, George. I don't want you adding is.
Yes, I will start with Mpanji Sinkala. He says Zambia has changed government several times through peaceful transitions. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has gained the credibility to inspire confidence even in this election. Today, even Western democracies have a lot to learn from Zambia.
The way you are insisting, it's like you're agreeing.
I think she insisted because she has capitalized.
Okay. Right. We have Luis Chileshe Mumba, who says that history has shown that when many people facing the same economic challenges stand together, their voices become impossible to ignore. But when they divide, the person continues, their struggles are easier to overlook. Unity or united hungry people are dangerous. Divided hungry people are manageable.
I
Wow,
like
that's
that.
interesting.
I like that. And Clara Milstead Wallington, you're saying, as a Zambian, I have always wanted an election where every voter can cast a ballot freely. Every party competes on a level playing field, and every result is accepted because the process is transparent and credible, regardless of who wins. The greatest victory is preserving public trust in our democracy.
And if you're watching as a Zambian, is that what you think? Note that the conversation is still ongoing on our different social media platforms. You can continue there because here under the Baobab, your voice matters. We don't just speak to leaders and experts. We make sure that we listen to you. And we want to also thank you for always sharing your thoughts on the issues that matter.
And this is where you say, hello, my name is...
Judge is always telling me what to do every week. And like he said, I am Mimi Mefoneu, and this is Under the Baobab.
Yes, and Mimi Mefoneu is with me, George Okachi, on this show.
I can never be alone.
We take Africa's complex issues and make them personal.
And we do so every Friday of the week. We put Africa's decision makers under the spotlight. Some are not always happier when they come under the Baobab. But we always ask the questions that people out there are asking. And we do so with your voice at the center of this table. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep the comments coming.
So, back to today's topic, the 26th International AIDS Conference just wrapped in Rio de Janeiro, that is in Brazil. And Mimi scientists and leaders gathered to assess the progress, on ending HIV. There has been a target that we need to deal with this pandemic. But one issue stood out, a sharp drop in international funding. We saw what USAID did has the direct, frightening and threatening effect to most African nations.
George, I like how we are always talking about international conferences, about climate change.
Yes.
We have to talk about international conferences when it comes to conflicts. But the conflicts are still there. The climate change issues are still there. The HIV/AIDS is still there. Now, like you said,
yes,
the stakes are very high. And UNAIDS wants that the permanent cuts to America's PEPFAR program could mean over 4 million additional AIDS-related deaths and 6 million new HIV infections globally by 2030.
Yes.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, Mimi. And most worrying is that Western Central Africa faces the sharpest risk. And that's why today we are speaking to
Dr. Sennen.
Dr. Sennen Hounton, UNFPA Regional Director for Western Central Africa.
And just to note that Dr. Hounton's role is very vital at the UNFPA. He is leading the global HIV prevention and safeguard sexual and reproductive health care for vulnerable women and girls. And if there was anyone who could talk about this, I think it's him.
And just to clarify, the work closely with UNAIDS that is led by Winnie Byanyima, a leading global health advocate and the wife to Dr. Kiza Besigye of Uganda.
Right, and the latest reports are quite troubling. Countries once making strong progress are now slowing down or regressing, driven by international budget cuts, like the USAID and others that we've just mentioned. In Cameroon, for instance, it's been very, very challenging for programs that were already existing and even for some AIDS patients as well. Yeah,
and while we were researching about this particular topic, Mimi, we saw that South Africa saw the largest, drop in pediatric care. And we're talking about over 30,000 fewer children on treatment and more than 8,000 healthcare, jobs lost as a result of, the aid cuts.
So Nigeria is also sleeping.
Yes.
So it's not just South Africa. Within months, prevention services for high-risk group fell by 50.5%, and HIV self-testing kits distribution dropped by 70.2%.
Yes,
actually.
and I believe our listeners and our viewers will appreciate that we need to go country by country. And when you talk about Central African Republic and the Democratic Republic of Congo, weak health systems and low investment mean that 50% of children living with HIV have no access to life-saving, antiretroviral, drugs or medicines.
Let's look at also, you've mentioned DRC, but also other parts of Francophone Africa like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Senegal. They are facing double crisis, low testing, restrictive laws, and new legislation in place criminalizing vulnerable groups is actually driving them away from healthcare services, stalling regional progress as well.
Yeah, and when we talk about the statistics, they may sound tiring, but of course they are very important. And this is the important thing. To hit the 2030 goal, the world set, that is the 95-95-95 targets, meaning 95% of people with HIV know their status, 95 of them on sustained treatment, and 95 virally suppressed.
Before I ask you later where you are when it comes to this percentage, let us let us find out from our guests whether they are actually on track, particularly West and Central Africa, whether these regions are actually on track. That's the first question that we put to him.
The short answer is not all countries, but on average, we are not in the region. We need acceleration and we need financing.
How realistic is it for African countries to end AIDS without foreign aid? And what factors would determine their success?
It is realistic. It can be done. We need leadership, political will, financing. How realistic? Some countries are having successes already and we can learn from them. What else will it take? It will take accountability. It will take the different forces at community level claiming their rights.
We also know how the US aid funding cuts have exposed how heavily many African health systems depend on foreign assistance. Did the international development system fail to prepare Africa for a moment like this one?
Yes, the answer is yes. I just want to give you an example. We work more and more. It is not just my organization, UNFPA, more with international financing institutions. Most of our countries on this continent, they are servicing the debt that they have contracted many years ago. But also, they have so much to care for. They have industrialization, they have manufacturing, they have social services to take it. So we are working with international financing institutions so that we have more instruments. We can raise capital. We are working with the private sector so that we can put in place mechanisms such as social bonds, working with the private sector so that we can have more resources. It is clear for us as an organization that to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, to achieve AIDS zero, to achieve zero maternal mortality reduction, we need to address the financing issues.
Yeah, of course, that is given where the financing issue must be addressed. But truth be told, the first target is people getting to know their status. You've chided that you would want to know my status.
What is it, Judge?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm HIV negative, of course, because I tested just recently as well.
That's good. That's good.
And I still feel like it's a personal initiative. It's you just deciding that you go and walk to the clinic and know your status.
Especially with the stigma that is attributed to, being identified as someone, not even, living with HIV and AIDS, but identified as someone even moving closer to any building or institution that is related to HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
We're doing like some extensive reporting on Cameroon, looking at how these centers operate and the people that are living with HIV and AIDS are being catered for. Most of these centers are separate. They are in a hospital, for instance, they are isolated. In a public hospital, for instance, there's a section that if you see a man and a woman walking there, it's already clear what their status is. And that's part of the stigma because it discourages a lot of people from going there. And that's something that we need to start changing because since I got here to Germany, I can't tell which section is for HIV and AIDS patients?
Yeah, I think that should be looked to critically and absolutely, away from the statistics. Of course, we are going to dig deep into the issue. Let's now take a breather, and we do that in a very special way. We get to know our guest on the other side, and we do that under the rapid fire segment.
What health habits do you personally struggle to maintain?
It's physical activity, to go to the gym or just stay and do some exercise, stretching, but I find it very difficult.
So when was your last health checkup?
That was just 3 months ago.
What health advice do you give others but sometimes ignore yourself?
First and foremost, the diet. We must watch what we are putting in our system. We must find time to sleep. I know it's very difficult, particularly in certain function, but we need to make sure that we find some sleep.
And what is the healthiest food people eat today?
I don't know what people eat generally, but when it comes to food, we just need to manage it. I'm in Ghana here, and there is so much good food, and I cannot stand the okra soup and the banku. But what do I need to do? I need to make sure that when I take some, I need to make sure that I do intermittent fasting and give the body some time to manage the excess.
And if you had 1 minute with an African president, which health service will you ask them to fund first?
I will say protect the adolescent girl. They are the fabric, the present and the future of our society.
That's very selfless. And what gives you hope about Africa's youth population?
I'm fortunate I have 2 daughters, and I look at them, I'm just amazed about the creativity. We just need to make sure as a society, as government and partner, that we are thinking first and foremost in terms of the employability.
Have you ever been afraid to take an HIV test?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just did it last year. So as part of my physical, it's very critical to know your status because our studies have shown that you can live a normal life, completely normal life, when it is detected very early. I would like to take the opportunity to call on all young people, please go out there and have your test and you'll know your status.
When Dr. Hounton was talking about you can just eat anything.
Yes.
And I was just like, George, who likes ugali and okra?
It is the equivalent of fufu.
It can never be you.
No, but to the critical issue, I think he has ended with a very, firm clarion call on people to know their status. And it's a challenge to our very able technical team who
Following
now
at
will
this
be asking
point,
for their status. And
including our producer
by,
who is watching
Buba
as
Jalo.
well.
But Mimi, looking back at the 1990s when we were growing up, I used to watch, television ads, and they were very scary. Whenever they, advertised anything, it was, the public service, advertisement on HIV and people, the need of, calling people to go and test their status. They would, bring this shock value. People were so thin, and people were like on that, last level of, suffering from the disease, and it was so scary.
Yes, and also like you've said back then, any sudden weight loss.
Yeah.
Someone who decided to just lose weight,
Yes.
like I'm doing right now, or visible
You'd
frailty.
be in trouble, yeah.
People instantly link it to HIV and AIDS.
Yes.
Oh, that person is not well. That
Yeah.
person is unwell. So it created a culture of fear and stigma. And I wonder if that shadow still lingers till date. That's why in some communities, bulky people
Yeah.
are interpreted as healthy
And
and
when
living
you-
good life.
Yes.
And when you are too frail and too small, it's always associated to, oh, this person is not feeling well.
Yeah, but I mean, thankfully, the science has moved on, and at the AIDS 2026, researchers unveiled promising vaccine breakthroughs and new approaches to guide the immune response, paving way for human clinical trials, Mimi.
And the data also confirmed the promise of long-acting prevention. Trial participants overwhelmingly preferred twice yearly lenacapavir, that's
Injection,
how it's called,
yeah.
injections, over daily pills. They'll prefer to take it once or twice in a year instead of taking pills like every day. But delegates issued a clear warning that these breakthroughs mean nothing without equitable access for developing countries like the Central and West Africa that we are talking about.
Yes, and that is very critical, equitable access to these, innovations. I mean, you can have a lot of innovations in terms of, curing the disease or ending the pandemic. But if it is not accessible to people, then it makes no sense. And also, one other issue that was being discussed is the once weekly oral treatment is also in the horizon. And the phase 3 result from the Iceland trials show a weekly pill combining isotrovir and lenacapavir is both effective and well tolerated in people with suppressed viral loads.
And most of these, remarkable advances that we are seeing now across the globe are being tried in African countries. But as donors funding, the donor fundings are shrinking. Many African countries that were depending on foreign aid are now desperate because the funds are no more coming. The question is, how are African countries adapting to these changes? Were they prepared to fund some of these programs by themselves? So these are some of the questions that we try to find out from our guests, whether are African nations actually really trying to fill the gap?
Yes, we have many. If I start naming, I will make some jealous and others. But I can tell you that as I oversee 23 countries in the West and Central Africa region, I see more and more government paying directly for the health of their population. I see government making in place national insurance scheme so that vulnerable subset of the population, the extreme poor, they can also enjoy the benefit of the development. The main problem that we are seeing there is where I started from, the growing inequalities, because many people, many part of the countries are still not enjoying the economic growth, the social economic transformation that are happening on this continent. And that's what we should be focusing on moving forward.
Can you concretely tell us which programs have been reduced or cancelled and how many women, girls, and young women have lost access to services?
I give you a specific example. For us, we have had US funding cuts, but these resources were directly supporting countries to address humanitarian preparedness and response, to address the crisis like the one we have in the Sahel. Yes, we have, for example, a flagship program we call humanitarian midwives. Those are midwives, they train midwives, who usually you will find in clinics, but are at the front line of all these crises. So by not having them, population are deprived of skilled quality of care. Many reproductive health commodities, when we talked about that, those are supplies, life-saving supplies, so that a woman can deliver a baby safely, so that someone who is HIV can ensure that the newborn can come to this world without HIV, or even making mobile hospitals in area that where we don't have hospital. Those are cut.
African governments regularly make commitments on maternity health, family planning, and the protection of girls. Yet, what we see in hospitals is the contrary. Hospitals still lack medicines, blood, trained midwives, and emergency care. Is this still a funding problem, or has it become a question of political neglect?
Yes, we still have issues in some countries, but we think that we must learn good practices from those countries where progress has been extraordinary, like Cabo Verde, like Sierra Leone, like Burkina Faso, like many other countries. What we are calling for in this part of the world is a multi-sectoral approach and a societal approach. What do I mean by that? Whether or not you have a road that can make sure that you reach quickly a hospital, or you have energy, electricity to run an operating theater, or you have infrastructure, it will impact heavily on whether or not the health outcome is good. And then a societal approach, because it's not just the responsibility of government. Everybody has a role to play, including our stakeholder, our religious leader, because the social norms that are preventing women and girls to access quality of care are still there.
And you know, I couldn't agree more that the societal angle is very key. And we've seen across, you know, the continent, community-led responses consistently improving outcomes, you know, strengthening accountability and also reducing, you know, stigma associated with HIV and AIDS. And the message is clear from stakeholders, and that is grassroots investment is non-negotiable.
So what do you think, you're watching from out there, you know, across Africa? Do you think that Africa can end HIV and AIDS without foreign aid? Our correspondent in Harare, Zimbabwe, took his microphones across the street, his privileged missionary, to find out from people what they think about Africa ending HIV and AIDS without foreign aid.
The freeze kind of exposed us, because up to this day, we have not had a tangible source where our money is going to come from. But initially, we used to have the AIDS levy, which brought us about 35 to 40 million, which is the 3% taxable income from the employees, those who are employed. Unfortunately, because of the reduced tax base, that money cannot really get us to where we are supposed to go, which is 95, aimed at ending AIDS by 2030. So the Americans are showing us that you can be assisted to a certain extent, and donor funds or external funding to such a critical and pandemic like HIV and AIDS, you need to be self-reliant.
As people living with HIV, we usually rely on updates from the other HIV organizations, like on their social media and so forth. And I've seen that some of the main ones that we expect to give us updated information, like even weekly, to say what's the status, we haven't seen anything for the past 3 weeks. So it's a bit worrying when there's silence. We've also recently learned that there's been blame from other agencies on the Ministry of Health to say they've not been able to spend what they've been allocated. The other issue is around fatigue, and also the fact that our support groups are not as strong as they used to be. We are not giving each other the same support that we benefited from years ago when we first got HIV. The reason why the support groups are not that vibrant is that the support groups still need some resources to get around.
Of course, that lady you just spoke is Martha Tolona, and I love her so much. She's a renowned HIV/AIDS activist who advocates, you know, and support works for decades. And the battle lines against HIV in Africa have shifted. It is a historic paradox. Scientific innovation is at all-time high, but international solidarity is at all-time low.
Now, the era is also very predictable. Multi-billion-dollar Western aid is ending, as we can see. Whether through Washington's policy shifts or global budget reshuffles, Africa is being pushed into a high-stakes transition towards medical self-reliance.
And the real question isn't just about a cure or a twice-yearly injection. It's whether Africa's national budgets and political leadership, as Mimi has insisted, have the will to fill the funding gap before time runs out.
Because 2030 isn't just a UN milestone. It represents millions of lives across this continent.
Now, over to you, our global community. Honestly, can African countries end HIV as a public health threat without international aid?
Share your thoughts in the comments as always. And if you value these deep dives, subscribe to our YouTube channel, DW Africa, where we have this conversation often. And where can people follow Under the Baobab also?
Of course, you can listen to it on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And that is for more conversation shaping African politics and society. Until next time, my name is George Okachi.
And I am Mimi Mefonewu. Goodbye.